I've already done brief. Today I'm doing the other poem, George Sand, The Recognition. The poem goes like this: To George Sand, a recognition. True genius, but true woman, thus deny thy woman's nature with a manly scorn, and break away the gods and armlets worn by weaker women in captivity. Ah, vain denial, that revolted cry is sobbed in by a woman's voice forlorn. Thy woman's hair, my sister, all unshorn, floats back dishevelled, strength in agony, disapproving thy man's name. And while before the world thou burnest in a poet fire, we see thy woman heart beat evermore through the large flame, beat purer, heart and higher, till God unsects thee on the heavenly shore, where unincarnate spirits purely aspire. The poem is addressed to a person called George Sand, and there is a series of poems. You only need this particular poem a recognition. Now, the name itself suggests that poem is addressed to a particular person called George Sand. Okay, sorry, my line is going haywire. Anyway, George Sand. Now, George Sand, the name suggests that it is a man. But actually, George Sand is not a man, but a woman. And therefore, in this poem, the poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning is actually telling George Sand, uh, she is actually ruining the fact that a person of George Sand's caliber has to adopt a man's name in order to be recognized. But then the poet says that it is not necessary to adopt the name of a man in order to be recognized. It is neither necessary to give up one's feminine, I wouldn't say ideology, but feminine characteristics, uh, like having long hair, beautiful hair. So these things need not be given up just to attain recognition or just to get recognition by the society. Okay. So she is a writer, George Sand, and who could be compared, who could stand her own along with great writers like Victor Hugo, and she had a great intellect, great style, eloquence, passion, everything was there in all her novels. And Elizabeth Browning almost respected her, venerated her, and however, even though she respected her a lot, she held her in high esteem. Even after that, in this particular poem, she says that a woman must not forget their womanhood. That is what Elizabeth Browning is actually trying to tell George Sand in this particular poem. That whatever is can be defined as womanhood, that is again a big question, but whatever can be defined as womanhood, whatever can be associated with one's feminine side, need not be given up just because one tries to find some recognition. And then she goes on to say in the later part of the poem that the power to break free from the shackles of gender. Sorry, this is SH shackles. There should be an L out here. Uh, from the shackles of gender restrictions comes from education. That means it is only through education that you will get the power to break free from the identity, from assuming a male identity. Okay. Now, so let's go to the poem proper. Poem here. True genius, but true woman. Thus deny thy woman's nature with a manly scorn, and break away the gauds and armlets worn by weaker women in captivity. So she's speaking to the woman writer George Sand, and she's saying that in the first few lines it is suggested that even you are a true genius, you are ultimately scorned by men because in Victorian England, what happened? Women were denied their rights because uh, on the basis of their gender. So even if you are a true genius, you are ultimately a woman, and a woman is never gets her recognition because of her gender. However, education here in this poem shows a path to freedom. So education represents freedom, because through education one can break away from the gods and armlets. Armlets are ornaments that are worn by women in their arms. These are representations of the shackles that are around women. So these are metaphorical terms here. They're used metaphorically to show that women are always held behind, held down by forces of the society. However, if she is educated, if she can she gets education, then she can break free from the gods and armlets which hold weaker women captive. That means, why weaker women? Because education gives a power to women. So those who do not have this education are considered to be weaker, and they are again held down by the forces of the society. So, in other words, women will not be restrained and dependent on men as was expected of them. Ah, in vain denial, that revolted cry sobbed in by a woman's voice forlorn. That means you try to deny your own identity, and you try to hold back whatever emotions you have. She's telling George Sand that you try to hold back. It is a denial of your own identity, and you try to hold back whatever emotions you have, and you try to give up your own womanly identity by through, and these are examples of giving up one's womanly identity. Disheveled hair, that means hair that is not combed properly, and taking up a man's name. But even though you do that, your actual, you can say, true identity of a woman will ultimately arise. So the uh, poet says that if she thinks her characteristics as a woman are opposite to a man's, that means she's different from men, and then changing her name would mean denying all of her female characteristics. So if she just changes her name in a kind of revolt, what will happen? It will be denying her all, you can say, female or uh, characteristics. So the poet challenges women to be proud of whatever they are good at, that means passion, emotion, while at the same time they should continue endeavoring for more intellect and recognition. She uses vivid imagery in the last part of the poem to express the triumph of George Sand finally breaking through the gender role. And while before the world thou burnest in a poet fire, uh, we see thy woman heart beat evermore through the large flame. That means, as you continue to write, we see more and more of the woman coming out. Even though you have assumed the name George Sand, we see more and more of what is your womanly nature come out. So she says that although she assumed the man's name, she continued giving expression to her emotions, writing romantic novels. So her feminine style in such a male dominated era makes her work even more impressive. So, because she continued writing in her own true self, she did not try to copy a man's point of view. She continued writing from a woman's point of view. Therefore, even though she changed her name, she continued writing from a woman's point of view. Therefore, what happened? She can be said to uh, be to chart out a name for herself in a male dominated era. So, the poet, towards the end of the poem, the poet says that till God unsects thee on the heavenly shore, where unincarnate spirits purely aspire. Unsects thee, that means even God has helped you and unsexed thee. That means you are no longer bound by your gender, by your sex. And you can now be where unincarnate spirits purely aspire. That means other spirits, incarnate means humanly formed. So, other people or other women or other men or other spirits, spirits do not have any gender. They aspire to reach that particular uh, level, but you have attained that level, and now you are no longer defined by your gender. Poet feels that God has helped George Sand and unsexed her, thus giving her the status of a good writer. So she is no longer defined only by her gender but by her work. I hope you have understood this particular. Uh, I hope you have understood this particular poem. Now let me stop here.